Is it louder there? I have no idea. But anyways, I'm gonna be killing that anyhow. It doesn't matter about the music. It matters how I sound. Hey, get this out of here. What's wrong with this? There we go. Sheesh. Can't control my output. Where's my cam? There we go. Oh, it's a little big? Maybe I can make that a little smaller. I think it's probably better to be small, in my opinion. There we go. And her, she's done. We'll get rid of her for a while. I got nicer music. I don't know. It seemed like the right thing to use at the time. The slideshow stopped being full size. So that's that. I'm here to give you basically everything I know about the Richat. Don't know how I sound. Let me just give it a quick listen to see the sound quality. Where? No? Can't hear. Listen to see the sound. There it is. Well, okay. It's good enough. So nothing's changing. There we go. So please subscribe to this channel and take a look at the past videos I've done on all this information. Okay, so now I got to click on here. And of course, if you're not familiar with the Facebook, you should sign up on that, or at least follow it so you can see actual links to the direct images that I'm showing you today. And of course, I do this Twitter thing, so you can follow me at Twitter. And my mom threw me into the mouth of Quetzalcoatl when I was like 4 on a visit to Tijuana, and that was a long time ago now. We're talking more than 50 years ago. So yeah, I'm worried about the green. I should close down that video. But anyways, let's keep going here. Keep it rolling. I don't want to have to do some post-editing. So I did get exposed to, ancient civilizations and theories and what was up. And I didn't know that was a feathered serpent at the time. And now I do. I learned Chinese and I moved to Taiwan. I became a university lecturer. And that's where I was like 100 miles from Yonaguni. And also, Yonaguni at one time was part of the mainland. It was connected until about 20,000 years ago, 17 maybe. And the water levels went down, up, and they blocked the bridge, and Taiwan became its own little island, and Yonaguni could have been part of the same civilization. I did visit some sites in Taiwan, and I went to Cambodia a couple times, and I went to the Richat structure a couple times. But I was still ignorant before I went to the Richat. Even after I came back from the Richat, I was still ignorant as to how extensive this ancient civilization goes. When I visited the first time, I didn't realize how close I was to certain things. Now, Jimmy, of course, told us that Herodotus put the Atlantis tribe in his writings. That was 500 BC. Jimmy also showed us the castle. Okay, I went to the castle and proved that it was really just stone piles of basically French war game structures. But when it comes to what Plato wrote about Atlantis, there are a bunch of things that I think are very connected to the Richat. First of all, you have to know that Plato claimed to have held the writings of Solon, but it was still more than 200 years before Plato was even born that Solon had visited Egypt and got the story. I should put the priests on here. I loved Chris Tolworthy's videos, especially the one about the history of Atlantis, where he showed this slide and pointed out that why would there be a barrier of mud when if you're in the middle of the ocean, like for example out by the Azores? How would you get an impassable barrier of mud in the middle of the Atlantic? We do have the ancient Tamanrasset Paleo River, proven to be like the Nile in Africa, and even around about 500 BC, when Hanno sailed down that way. There's a video, that's the Chris Tolworthy video. So the big question is, how did the Temple of Sais get the story that was carved on the walls from this area that Plato discussed? Why is this here? Okay, so that right there, is that my first mistake? Kinda. I don't think that belongs here. Okay, so let me talk about, there were canals. And let me talk about the Richat structure that some people don't realize. But on the north edge, along the north, there's quite a clear shoreline. Okay, you see the dry lake bed with even damming activity going between. Let me see if we have any commenters. Although I'm doing fine talking, right? Thank you from Scotland. So we have a north shoreline. It goes all along. I'm going to even open this one up on the map for you because I think it's important to look at the 3D and see that shoreline. Now when you move in, okay, I'm going to have to get a new mouse. This shoreline goes on for miles and miles. And did it connect to the Atlantic Ocean? Well, you question yourself. You've got this straight line going through there. You've got this shoreline along this area called Dar, and then you have open sand. So you've got shorelines, and you've got a shoreline here. Okay, so you had water here that was up for a while. Now, was it during the time of Atlantis? That's a good question. However, people say, oh, there was no water there. It wasn't next to the Atlantic Ocean. Well, there was water. Take a look at the shoreline along the Adrar Plateau. And, of course, we don't know where that lake goes. It's covered by sand. So we don't know how far across this area that water could have reached. Could that have been, in fact, an ocean or a sea that was created maybe by this eyebrow? It looks like an eyebrow, right? And we have symmetry when we look and we see more structures going in the same parallel direction as that eyebrow, and the opposite direction, which is the White Valley, I might add. If you want to arrange camping trips here, we can do it, because there's lots of ancient advanced activity going along this area right here especially, and I'll get into that later. But as you can see, you have a symmetric thing going on here. Is it going exactly west? No, not really. Exactly west? Maybe it's an ancient direction that I can point out later. Man, I gotta get rid of that sound on my phone. So, this is the ancient direction that I talked about. Man, I'm just gonna go ahead and turn this phone off. It really pisses me off when it does that. But yeah, I'm not gonna turn it off, but turn down the media stuff. All the notifications there. They're down now. Media down. Ring and alarm. I'll leave that up, just in case. All right, so that's taken care of. Thank you from Chile. Thank you very much for that comment. That means a lot to me. Okay, back to the northern edge of this structure. When you zoom into it, you can see the shoreline. The shoreline that of an ancient body of water, like a lake or a sea, could have gone across this sand structure. It goes all the way over here. Now, that's where we get to this curve, Michel's curve, right? I can show you some slides first, and then maybe we'll go back to the thing. I just don't want to be using Google Earth, especially during the live broadcast, due to the thing. But as you notice in this map, or this thing, I'd made it, you can see the ancient shoreline out here, okay? Because you're assuming that the water levels rose. Well, guess what? You can actually see the actual level right there. You can see the ancient shoreline from Google Earth. Maybe if I were to move that back and forth in front of it, it would be better. Okay, so there's the body of water I just showed you. Now, where did that water come from? We already know that this bigger line is the ancient Taman Reset. I think it probably came right through there, but that's not what they say. And if you take a look at the whole thing, it's still hundreds of miles away from the Richat, unless this was an inland sea. And down here, possibly the same story. However, what you see there in the corner of the eye, and we'll go back to that now because I like to show you up close. First of all, I don't like what Google Earth has done to these images. I mean, what's going on here? This is ridiculous. This is not like before. I can open up, I don't want to do it though. I can open up Google Earth Pro. Let's just measure this thing here. So you can go around this curve. By the way, Michelle pointed this out so many years ago and still hasn't been, I've still not been able to visit there. Okay, so that's 10 miles. Probably, what's that, 17 kilometers? And I'll stick with miles for now. But we also have a straight canal, and it's going right along the edge of the Adrar Plateau. I mean, the literal change in plateau is right there. You can see that right there. It goes from Adrar Plateau to something else, maybe sand, maybe hard bedrock. We don't see the bedrock sticking through. We don't see megabreccia, but we do see, oh, that's a terrible job. Let me fix that. I just can't accept that curve measurement, especially when it'll actually make it longer. So that might go back a little bit there. You've got a couple of shorelines at this curve, and you've got ancient activity down here in this basin, maybe even someplace we need to visit, right? And it's right here. And I tried to get there, but I couldn't get a ride, and it's like, where I couldn't get it. Where is it? Oh, here it is. I wanted to check this out for myself to see it. You've got little breaches. This is a very, very interesting thing here. It curves. It's straight there, but it goes under the sand. It seems to curve. Why? I don't know. I want to go see for myself. This is not all desert. It's actually a very beautiful area. Okay, let me go back to the slides. I just want to make sure I'm staying on track. My theory is that especially here, I just showed you, there's a canal that comes around. I think that's a major piece of evidence right there. It's been there since the beginning. Same with this water on the north side. But what we're not seeing is how that may have been served. I think there were some canals, and I'm just showing you some random lines to represent that. I also think there was a river going out that way too at the Atlantic. Okay, so we have that. Let me get back into slideshow mode. Hi, Nathan Prince. It's nice to see you. So that's a better shot, right? There's not all that BS that Google Earth is changing and covering up. This is a previous Google Earth. On the right, you can kind of see some bedrock maybe sticking up here. But what caused that? You think that curve just happened? It just happened? And by the way, don't forget the canal connected to it. Now, I also wanted to show you the parallel canals that I visited myself, but not just for those right now. We are talking about canals, and yeah, they're very straight. They don't match what you see everywhere else. If you go to the natural rivers, like the Awadan River right there, which is all jig-jagged, there's a lot of canals going through there. And one of them points directly at the Richat. That's what made me back to Team Richat. In addition to those canals, over by the Taman Reset Paleo River, I can show you some other ones as well. And there's so many over there. That's not one of them, but that's an example of what you might be looking at. What happened? What happened to the picture? I have the picture right there. I must have deleted that picture. I had a good picture for you, and I'll tell you what, since I want to show it in the video, I'm going to show it to you this way. It's the project, and it's Canals at Taman Reset project. And you can see right now there's a bunch of them, and maybe that actually went all the way through over there. Remember, this was not a place where water was, so I think that's modern day, to be honest. I think it's not necessarily older as Atlantis. However, these canals over here, and then the fact that they just disappeared under all this, makes me wonder. Okay, going back to the slideshow, those Taman Reset, yeah, I didn't mean to put that there. I like this one. It comes from a little farther South Africa, but you can see these cuts. You can see these carved canals, and what happened to the topsoil to make them a little bit higher than over there? Well, obviously nature took its course and chose one of them. If you have all those to choose from, of course nature is going to choose one, right? I'm planning on sitting here for a while. I'm watching the light. It looks green. Okay, so what I want to make sure everybody knows today is there was quarrying all over the place. What's going on here? Am I not showing up? Okay, there we go. I'm not trying to watch myself, but I just saw my head cut off. There we are. Hi. Thank you for joining. Okay, so there was quarrying, and Randall Carlson told me that before I ever went, but I didn't get it. It took me a long time to figure it out. This was back in 2020, and I still hadn't been to the Richat, and I still hadn't understood what he might have been talking about. And I hadn't realized the quarry fields in the Richat structure are right here. And if you look at them, they've been pretty stripped. This was actually what made me feel like maybe this couldn't be Atlantis. If it's, let's go back to see his words, hundreds and thousands of years ago, people were doing this. But it is on the top of the part that's sticking out of the water. I won't get into it too much, but when it comes to quarrying is everywhere. And I can show you the highest point in the Richat structure. And it's right between the parallel canals. You see that little face, that little head, looks like a dog's head. And then dark part on the top of that is the highest point of the Adrar Plateau. You can see that there. It kind of shows the part that's the highest. And you see this length, that is a quarry cut going across the whole thing. I mean, it doesn't really show up on the top. That's why I'm not sure if I can really claim this to be one single line, but it's 8 miles long. And on both sides of that high point is the cut. You can see it here. It actually goes right out towards the nose of what I call Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And you can see the quarry cut come off the top of the nose, go back into the structure. You can see it there. You don't really see it on top. There's some other cuts on the other side. The head's up here on the right. And all these cuts are coming off the other side. So some type of I don't think those are canals. Those are probably quarry cuts. They're removing material. And I can tell you that I have a lot more examples than that. But this one is right next to the Richat. I've been there. I took a picture of those mountains. I don't have that picture here. There's two, that's the nose, and there's another matching mountain right next to it. And they both have these lines cut through the top. I think maybe it's overburden dumping. But I don't want to get too deep into it, but these mounds are aligned exactly the same as two that are located in the Grand Canyon. And there's those mounds in the Grand Canyon, and if you look at the whatchamacallit down here, the compass, and you look at the location that I just showed you in the Richat, they are the same. And there's a picture of it right there that you can see those two mounds. I reorientated them to a north-south, I guess, maybe an ancient north-south, but that does come up. It's a 45-degree angle off of north. It's northeast, right? So northeast is the magic direction for some reason, or maybe it's northwest and I have it upside down. So we don't know, but I kind of took the one that was closer to north right now. And that is another area that's clearly been worked and carved. Those same types of lines you saw, except there has been a lot of erosion because this thing here between them has been torn away, and there's no connecting to that other part. Also, the one I showed you, Emirt or Dar, that's also a big, huge structure that's been carved and quarried. And you can see those lines on the east side. Yeah, it's a... Thank you, Keith Howell. It's a Rudolph, the running Rudolph. One more thing I should say about that is, do you see here you've got from the... I don't know, we're looking north that direction, kind of. You can see there is some orientation that's similar. It's 45 degrees angles off a different north, right? It's the same direction. And I haven't taken a lot of time to go through all that, but to each one of these pictures I should. And do you see that the 45-degree angle that you actually see, this is like this little cross 45 that you will see in all this stuff. Here, it's quite prominent, and by the way, it's a perfect 45. It looks like nothing's perfect in this mining world, at least not here. In other places, it is. Here, I can show you that 45-degree angle going against north, so It's kind of a, it's usually going from this direction. I have seen a mirrored effect, but here you can see the same thing happening. This is back on top of that same structure, mirrored. And you get that 45-degree cross cut going here and there and there, and again and again and again. And it's not natural. This one, obviously, this type of quarrying, it looks like they're probably not looking to get perfect blocks, but they're trying to get ore. The ore they can take away and they can grind it up and mine it, I guess. You see these 45-degree angles right here. And over here in this part, you also get some quarries and some activity where they're carving up the hills. I mean, look at that. That goes on for how many miles? It says 600 meters down there at the bottom. So if that's 600 meters times 5, 10, 7, that's 4 kilometers long, 5 kilometers long. We can measure that. And these lines are all parallel, and they're all obviously man-made. Possibly even after Atlantis fell, you know? That's still, I used to think this was natural. I used to look at it and say, oh, it's so beautiful. And, oh, wow, that's amazing the way things erode. But now I know better, and I took a better look. These lines are going for miles and miles, so don't tell me that, oh, that's a natural occurrence. That it's happening all over the world, yes, but each case shows impossible cuts. So this area up by the north, and by the way, it's not the very top, it's not the very bottom. It's kind of interesting how that's, oh, too bad. Yeah, about my voice cutting in and out. I'm looking down and seeing the red light. I'm going to get rid of this Verizon. I'm getting rid of it. Also, in addition to the lines, you can see the quarries. I can tell you right now that even though my voice cuts in and out, that, yeah, Joe, I'll bring him up in a minute. Coming soon. Back to my voice cutting in and out. The final video usually is okay. So this is a live thing, but it happens where it goes back to the normal when it gets the final video on YouTube. It might take a day. Yeah, so let me get to that, Joe. I've got that, and there you go. That's the argument. Mansa Musa was one of the richest men in the world, and he also he was the richest man. He also controlled this area. Maybe not him, but his predecessors. I mean, you don't think he mined all that gold by himself, do you? So, yeah, there was mining activity. I'm calling this quarrying right now, and the reason why is because I want to differentiate the large-scale mining. But that was pretty close, what you just saw. Pretty close to large-scale mining right there. 4 kilometers. How many mines in real life do you know that's 4 kilometers wide? And this place here, I also found this nearby. Take a look at those lines. Those cuts are clear. Who cut them? And why are they parallel? And why are they going in 3 different directions, not just 2? They're not cutting cake. They're not cutting blocks of stone. When I see that, it makes me feel like they're mining for ore, and they're grinding it down, and they want to take out the metal, the gold, right? It's an argument for ancient gold mining activity. They're not trying to get blocks of gold out of there, but they're trying to get the gold out of there. And we see different examples. Now here, down there, you can also see this weird mining activity going on. I just wanted to say it's not just right in the Sahara Desert. It's countrywide. It's Africa-wide. It's all the way down to South Africa. Okay, you see it in Utah. They call this the needles in Utah, and they try to say that eroded. But my question is, how can you get perfect parallel lines that are 4 kilometers long? Especially if you get the cross cuts, they're not going to be perfect so far down the road. So this is a big question I have for geologists. How can you justify this? Now, Utah is not perfect. It has some interesting spots that are very straight. But if you talk to me before I ever went to this rabbit hole, I would say that's perfectly natural. And even these big areas with the big wide parts in Utah, why is that so wide? I believe it's right next to the Colorado River, that this mining activity, this is also, when you see straight lines, okay, they're not perfectly straight all over the monument, but you do see straight lines going in one direction and straight lines, parallel lines going in another direction. And to me, I question that. And then you get a third set of cuts Now here I don't see that third set. So it's 2. And maybe that's why it looks more natural to me. But when you get to this point, it's a little bit too straight for me to say it's natural. And here you have too many sets of straight lines. And there's 3 sets here. Okay, they're just not all lined up, but they're parallel. So my question, and by the way, I went there. I think it's really old. We're talking about 1 million years old, maybe more. Somebody equated that to a spirograph, a cutting machine that was like a spirograph. It just lifted up, moved, and then did the same curve again and again and again. Okay, so I talked about and then we're going to get to the mining as well. We're talking about the Grand Canyon showing these same structures first. That you see those triangles, those little triangles. That's a triangle for a reason, because it's got 1, 2, 3 cuts. How does that happen naturally? I question that. And by the rivers, cliffs over rivers with little water areas, they also seemed like they were good target points for these cuts. Sometimes they're quite sporadic, so I feel like there's different people doing different stuff. This guy looks like he did it to get the stuff to go right in the water and carry it downstream, probably getting heavy metals like gold. You see that along the Colorado River between the Grand Canyon and Utah. And some of them just look too... Now, this is not necessarily the Colorado River, but it's a nearby river. And this is just a little bit too convenient for me, especially when this is not... I don't know where this is. I forgot, but it's... I think it's in the North America area on the way up to Utah near Canyonlands. So that whole area that I just showed you, again, people just cutting, getting that mineral out so they can go cash in on that ore. And you can see also for water as well. Okay, so overburden dumping, and that's where we're going to talk about. Actually, that Mansa Musa, I think he's in the mining part. But we really answered that question, right? He was from just a little farther south, but the royal family controlled it. But overburden dumping, I mean, if they're doing all this mining, they're getting slurry. What are they doing with that slurry? So the slurry, I think they did a lot of different things. For example, created mounds like this, that conical little thing doesn't look like a volcano at all. This is in South Africa. But the fact is one of them has a truncation on it, and it looks like either it was created, maybe they were just getting rid of some overburden dumping. But the thing is that usually they seem like they're using it to create walls. So I think this would have been kind of a waste back then when they can go put a wall somewhere. And I can show you some of those later. So maybe they were burying people. Maybe there are truly giants underneath these mounds. And I'd be interested to know more about those specific 2 mounds right there. This was another one that had a truncated top, and I think that you can see it's pointed almost perfectly north. So I don't know if that is really related. I did find other mounds that were not pointed perfectly north. You can kind of see they're kind of low resolution, but this one is a lot different from that one. These 2 look like they're the same, but these mounds I found near South Africa. I think that they're significant. One of them was very close to this structure. I call this a channel. I want to move that over with those other channels. I'll show you in a minute. But the mound that you just saw is actually connected to a straight line from this. It goes over and cuts back up. And I can show you that line live maybe. It's very easy to find. And why don't I show you that one? These mounds look like they're a different color from what they're put on top of. Not this one, but I wanted to show you that mound live since I got you. So when you go down to find Lesotho, you quickly see this notch right there. And that's where you see that channel with the settling pond next to it. The breached settling pond represents the end point. So what are they doing? And why does these 2 channels go, or this 2 lines create a channel going up to the mountains? So when you get up to here, it kind of ends. One of them continues, but one of them stops, kind of bridges. Maybe it was continued, but it got deleted. It looks like this may have been like a pool of something created here, but you follow this line back over, you find the line, it disappears because of a river breach, but then right next to the river is your mound, and that mound doesn't look like a natural structure to me. Thank you, BCCCL. I think it is amazing as well, and I wonder why people like Michael Tellinger are ignoring this. Wait till you see the other things, mounds that are a different color. That's the Lesotho border. I just showed you right here, and it went up. So down there is where I showed you. It's turned on its side, but all these yellow lines represent these lines that I've found. I think that it is like overburden dumping. This is in Sahara Desert. It's kind of out of the way, but I'm going back to these like lines that are going across the desert. Maybe canals. Maybe you see a double, and it actually took water. And if you go to California, we have modern day, what do you call it, aqueducts. So maybe they were aqueducts. Maybe they were made here. This area, we're talking. I don't know why this is here. Am I in the wrong spot? Where am I? Where am I? What's the title of this section? Yeah, I don't know why that's there, but I'll talk about it as it comes. So I expected this to be in a different spot. I'm talking about roads right now. Roads, walls, canals, these things. How do they create them? I show you this one because it looks like the mounds were dumped on top of them. So which came first? Over here, overburden dumping. Okay, all right. So I think this is a big field of overburden dumping. And why I say that is because it's so like the Matrix, right? And here you've got a modern day mine, and down here you've got all the parts, right? You've got the settling ponds. This is a diamond mine in Lesotho, but gold mines also have settling ponds, right? And they also have dumping. Oh, that's this, of course, the pits, the strip mined open pits, right? And that's where they're getting all the content from. They process the content and then they go dump it. That's why you've got the blue over here. I can't zoom in, or I would zoom in, but you've got like this mountain they created. Look at this big mountain and how it actually has created a new mountain cliff. But those little tiny divots, those are dumps. Those are single dumps, right? Then they use their tractor to flatten it all out. Okay, so if a single dump is 23 feet wide, how about this so-called dump being 200 foot wide? Now, I say that because, let me go back to the original picture. I chose one of the smallest ones. I chose. Now, you also see some other activity up here in the mountains, some straight lines or some maybe dumping lines. But then you've got this straight, and you need to think that somehow if it's such a straight line that it's related to itself. Planetary Valley, you can see these orbs there. So were they were melting and creating a slurry, a concrete slurry, and they were processing this material, and then they were dumping it in an organized fashion that created these weird dribbles of mountains. And like I say, one dump of our mine is 23 feet wide. One dump, the smallest dump, 200 feet, even 2,000, even 10,000 feet wide, some of these. And as you can see here, back to Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer's nose, you've also got an organized, probably overburden dumping. The highest mountain in the Adrar Plateau was created. And you can find roads everywhere. This one was 94 miles long. I don't think there's any volcanic, they call them volcanic dikes that go that far. How far do the volcanic dikes go in Colorado? They call them volcanic dikes. Those go several kilometers, but not 94. This is an organized road. This is 10 miles long. And I believe this is in Madagascar. This one right here, I don't remember where it is, but it shows that it was just put on top of this other plateau. And it's totally different material. It's visible from Google Earth. And this one in Morocco, come on. Let's go back to geography class. How are mountains formed? One line going back and forth like a hairpin turn. This is probably one of the most important mountains to look at when I'm discussing. I'm not in New Mexico, but it's a USA. Pie Town, New Mexico has two parallel mountain ridges. Ancient mining haulage roads? Question mark. Maybe, but they're not perfectly straight. We've even have examples of, see, I talked about it here because I just want to remind that this is one of the largest unnatural parallel canal fields I've ever seen in my life. I'll talk about that later, though. That's called the Kalahari Canals. Long walls created canals and roads. Okay, so I should put that Kalahari Canal a little bit later, but I just wanted to say that because it's water related, probably water related. I'm repeating here, but these things go under the sand dunes. They go through breccia rock. This is found in the Sahara Desert near the Richat. Probably later, it's water control. This is up north. I'll show you that area later. It's called Ergchek in Algeria. These crazy lines going through the Sahara. Obviously not natural. Come on. Oh, maybe water controlling. This one, those sand dunes are 1,000 feet high. And again, between the sand dunes, you see possibly, what's that, a toll road station? Or some type of a machine house along the side of the canal, kind of like a bridge. Or maybe there's technology that's gone now that this was all connected to, like a bridge control booth that rose up the bridge or something like that. Ergchek. And by the way, a lot of the quarries I'm showing you are right around here. This one right here, I haven't shown you that. I call that mining. My presentation's still messed up. I thought I had this all straightened out. I guess my stream of consciousness just changes. But each one of these walls separate an area that probably settled playa lakes. But there's these quarries. One's there, one's up here along the wall. I'll show those to you later, but this is the Ergchek curved wall area. Uh-oh. Yeah, I know my voice might be coming in and out, but I betcha the final product's going to be fine. Just you have to suffer as a live audience member, and I'm sorry about that. Thank you for the thumbs up, though. Here's some other roads going underneath the sand dunes. Or maybe they're canals. And maybe this is a modern-day road that I just mistook for something ancient. I doubt it, though, because of the way it just shows up. But anything could be possible. Some of them are quite wide, though. 180 foot wide. This one's 50 foot wide. This one's 50. 50. There's a lot of 50s. And this scene around the world, that's right here. This is by the New York airport. So if you're in New York and taking off, you can possibly see these canals. But it's not just next to the airport. It goes all the way down Long Island. So the whole stretch of Long Island has this activity going on. Was it a plan? Was it modern day plan to make housing on the ocean? Or was that old stuff? Well, I'll tell you, remember the 400-foot increase in sea level kind of proves that this is more modern day. I'm just trying to be honest. I'm not trying to push anything on you that I don't believe myself. Large-scale mining activity, though, in my opinion, something was going on. And that was the overburden dumping from something big nearby. And it's very big nearby. Ancient mines look just like modern-day mines in many ways. Settling ponds. Check out Mined Earth's video on Peru, mainly Peru. That whole area could have been mining. And then what did they do later? They made it beautiful because people are living there. So that's why you have several layers of this, I forgot the different names, but this type of rock work you see in Peru. I do believe it was some type of slurry where you can find fossils in it because it was mined by ancients. And so they didn't destroy it like you would today. And that's, of course, the Nazca lines. But these lines you see in Lesotho, they're kind of not straight. They look like that was the sloppiest, maybe the oldest. Yeah, Mansa Musa, right? He was the richest man in history, and where was he from? Okay, Mali. And by the way, a lot of that stuff I showed you is in Mali, and Mauritania was part of Mali. Okay, so the channels in Lesotho, you can see these lines. They're all going up into the mountain, And sometimes I wonder if the mountains themselves isn't created by overburden dumping. Also, nearby South Africa, you've got these structures that are obviously old, obviously have roads and possibly mining. Is that another settling pond? Look at the funny thing about this one is that's a perfect triangle going down into there. So this angle and this angle are the same, and they go down in there. Well, I'm not going to say they're perfectly the same, but they go down in there and meet, and that's probably 360 degrees, right? That's a perfect triangle. And over here, another triangle, the large one, and of course, this is part of a third structure way out there. So that's 4.73 miles in South Africa. And there's not just one intersection. One of those I just showed you. The other one I found elsewhere. You can see shortcuts, and they're all about the same measurement. Now, these people, they had trucks. If that's 100 meters right there, over here, that's 50 meters. Am I looking at the right number? 100 meters down here. Probably this wide part is 50, and then the shortcut, both have shortcuts. So this slurry was used to do a lot of things. I think somebody created a yard with this. And there's that same triangle, and you can see that there's little, that's that intersection I just showed you. That's a 90-degree angle. But I forget why, I wanted to show you the good stuff. This one was a different angle of the same structure. That's a lot clearer, right? 100 meters. 100 meters for each location. That's not the other one, but that's very similar too. It's these structures are everywhere. You can find them all over the place, down there in South Africa and Lesotho. Up here, it's actually Algeria, Erg-Czech. I just told you about it. I told you they not only have those yards, those walls, but they also have quarrying lines. Again, these quarrying lines right here, they are not perfectly parallel, but how many directions do you see? We have this direction, we have this direction, but you also have the third direction, making it three-dimensional, making it polygonal, and creating triangles. And nobody's going to serve a birthday cake with this type of cutting. They're not going in there to retrieve blocks. And they're big plateaus, so they're even eroding. They're working at the edges first, maybe. And as they work into it, they're taking away the ore. They're taking away the gold. Here's another one. Same place. Erg-Czech. I think this place is beautiful. And highly, by the way, there was an image change. So I was looking at this, and then I found one spot like this. That is beautiful. And those lines, to me, you cannot call those natural. They're all over the place over here. I found many little places that look like that. But don't worry. I've got another place that they do take blocks out of. Here, I don't think so. Here, they're going in there in a grid-like fashion. Nature happened afterwards or before, but look at this one. You've got those parallel lines. I wish I could zoom in on that right there. Just a perfect parallel intersection right there. And then there's a up-down one. So 3 directions. This is something random, but it looks to me the same story. The same story. I find this all over New Mexico. I find this in the Grand Canyon, Saudi Arabia. Some very interesting lines here. I mean, I would even be willing to say that's modern day. I've said that a few times. Because, I mean, when you look at that's only 40 meters right there. So 40, 80, 100. That could have been done modern day for some reason. Whoops, what did I do? Did I mess up? No. I'm going to show you something that couldn't be modern day, and it couldn't be, it's not small, okay? How big was that whole area? If you look here, 400 kilometers. So for me, that looks like an inch on my screen. I'm sorry, 2 inches on my screen. So when I go up here, that's more than an inch on my screen. That's 400 kilometers plus. And then the skinny part is like, must be, let's say, if that's 200 kilometers, then we'd have to say that's 20 kilometers or more to go across. And I just want to say that because you find this everywhere you go there. Just like Utah, it's a national park. Tahsil Najer. Stone Run Grammy, hello. And it looks like a cleared out quarry where they're not just taking they're taking blocks out of there. These people are not quarrying for ore. These people were quarrying for blocks and a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of different types of activity here. But when you see these blocks taken out, and yeah, they're pretty big. If that's 100 meters right there, these blocks are like 3 or 4 meters wide. Some of them are wider, some of them are smaller. Here's one with a mound right in the middle. You can go check these out. I mean, those are blocks, and they're about, I think, according to this, if that's 100 meters, again, these look like they're about 10 meters wide. They look like they're a tenth of that, maybe 5% of that, 5 to 10 meters wide. And these are all over the place, and they're certainly not natural. And certainly there's some type of other ancient activity going on top of it, making these ridges, probably overburden dumping of some sort. We do have the water control. I found these, and I think they were not modern day. And even if I could probably do this in a lifetime, I could probably do all of this in a lifetime. But the question is why they did it. Were they just creating a settling pond in there? And this one, why did they make it so water could still get out? Were they creating it where they could get the water out and filter out the gold? And who were they? Giants? Tibesti Mountains, you see something crazy going on over there. That's over in Chad. It looks like a nose on somebody's face. Well, if that's a chin and a nose and an eye, then I'm talking about the lips. The lips are the place you can go see all this weird activity. I'll take you there right now live if that's what it takes to convince you that they were doing something to the stone to create the canals and also create the texture on top. I mean, something's going on there. It's some type of an ancient machining. I always say, was this machined down to this point, or was it added with slurry? And here you can see these weird, that's natural, yes, but then you can see those canals were cut as well. So you've got this stuff going on out here, and then you've got this stuff going on in here. That's some type of a parallel line structure right there. And then, of course, you've got the dribble mountains added. Who knows? But if you look at it carefully, you can kind of figure out which one came first. Was it down here? You can see that very similar to this. Whatever this is, it's happening over here a little bit on the left over here. Now then you've got these straight lines going over. Were those added first or second? You can see these straight lines coming away from this river here. I think that's indicative of unnaturalness when you see a line, a perpendicular line leaving the river. And this here shows like water control. This is in North America. Pie Town could be water control. It's right near a couple rivers. This, you can see several lines. This one added. So they overburden dumped here, down here a straight line, over here another straight line. Maybe they doubled up on it, and still it got breached, right? Still, after all that time. Who knows if that was on purpose or on accident. Here in New Mexico, you can see these lines over here on the right and a couple of more over here on the left and a bunch of rivers up here. Those are parallel for sure. And this is the same type of ridge. And when you zoom in on it, it's that same, maybe a tenth of a mile wide. Here's a couple more parallel lines. Tenth of a mile wide. In this case, it looks like it's a lot higher up. Still controlling water, right? It made this river just turn 90 degrees. And a major river. And yeah, they sometimes allow it to go by here. They want it to go through in certain places. They're controlling it. Here it looks like a curve, and it's been breached several places. The question is whether or not it's been breached. 13-mile long water control ridge. Kalahari canals. I'm bringing that up because I'm kind of almost done. I guess I didn't get into my major mining project, did I? I think I finished everything. This is Namibia. I kind of compare it to the Kalahari canals, although the Kalahari is a lot flatter. This Namibia, there must have been sand dunes that got, I mean, natural, the official mainstream explanation is sand dunes gone non-sand dune. I kind of wonder if these are just the same thing. Overburden dumping projects. Okay, somebody was making mountains with these slurry and the overburden dumping. This is another track. It's in the wrong spot. This is another track. Okay, somebody was building mountains. Here's a north-south mountain in Lesotho. Here's those structures here that you already talked about. This is Morocco. To me, that looks like a very interesting change of direction geographically. The folds, they say in geography. The land was folded, right? It folded. Well, why is it a different color from what's below it? Why don't we see the same colors and not like it was put right on top of the land? All right, this is also north-south dribble mountains, probably overburden dumping or water control, and they just happen to be north-south. Here you can see in Sahara the same type of very long, the only explanation is volcanic dikes, but I don't think so. I have questions about that. Is that water control? Back when this place was green, it would have been useful. Sahara Desert, right? So this is Argentina. And you can see the same thing happening where people may have been trying to control water, maybe mining, maybe using the water source as part of their mining process. And these lines are on both sides of this plateau. So this is back down in Lesotho. This place and this place are not the same place. They just have the same symmetrical shape. Same area in Lesotho. Actually, this is South Africa, but it's right north of Lesotho. I'll go back. So Lesotho, or I'm sorry, South Africa, north of Lesotho, along the Great Escarpment, creating the Great Escarpment, probably creating it, and very parallel, these mountains. And there's some of your leftover white slurry and probably what was a settling pond. And they probably just are separating it and wherever they can do it. Looks like that was a pit for doing that, and there's some leftover slurry. Over here, you can see some of the ancient, probably terra preta. I don't know why it's a different color. And if you go there now, it's changed. This is in the U.S. Cedar Mountain. Believe that is in Utah. Or I saw this flying home from the Richat structure. And I said, well, if it's it looks like I was a lot closer than this. I backed out for the image grab, but I flew over it and saw these ridges, and I said, those are interesting. Are those volcanic dikes? Those volcanic dikes are geometrical, right? They're 3 dimensions, not just 1 dimension. Volcanic dikes, do they usually do that? Do they usually go in 1 dimension? How about here? That's the Colorado Spanish Peaks over there. I'm going to show you more, but I wanted to compare the Spanish Peaks to maybe what Gornaya Shoria was, because it looks like it's the same type of ridge activity, but in Colorado, they don't just structure away from the mountain. Here's an image. You see this is a north-south wall here. There's also north-south walls down there, but these are going east-west almost. That's north. So they're almost perfectly east-west. There's several of them going through here, controlling water. Over here, you've got even the craziest thing of all. I was on the top of the mountain and looked down and took these pictures. I didn't take this picture, but I took pictures just like this. And I was so happy. No, maybe I was wrong. I couldn't get this shot, so I got it on Google Earth. But I took other pictures like this. I went up there, and I got a lot of shots of these so-called volcanic dikes. There's one here going through. There's one here. They're all recorded as natural geological structures. But to be honest, this is way south, way up there. That's the Spanish Peaks way up there. So I guess it's still Colorado, but near New Mexico. I think this is New Mexico. You have these places called the North and South Wall. And they have the same ridge, just like in South Africa. You see these ridges. This is one of them they made a tunnel through. And when I looked at that, it looked like it was mixed material, like granite, but different, like it was cement. And I have photographs of that. I don't have the pictures here. I should grab those. And here on this side, you see these X's, these crisscrosses. How does a volcanic dike cross over another volcanic dike and literally ignore? It didn't crush through. It's this area. This stopped. I was standing over there. I went there, and this. I looked at it and I said, "Why does it curve down? It looks like it's going underneath it, or stopping, and then on the other side starting again." So who made those? I think this is the smoking gun that proves people were making mountains, and not just out of molehills. And now we have a new video coming from Niger talking about the Devil's Tower, Niger, with the same material. Is it even possible that our Devil Towers were made by man? That's the end of this one. Thank you so much for your time, and I will see you another time. Have a great day.